I'm using this ambient study music to concentrate because that is something that I noticed that I have a hard time doing. Started at 9 and I'm gonna go study. I said at first 2 hours, but I'm gonna go all the way through this whole entire track. Right now we're 28 minutes in, and there's a total of 3 hours and 57 seconds and 51 minutes. But I know it's gonna go quick, especially when I'm learning new information. And I'm not even gonna share this out. Literally right now, I'm just gonna focus. So I'm gonna let go and let God. And at first I was really uncomfortable when I was studying my LSAT prep, but that means I'm growing, right? So I'm gonna do what I can. At first I was using my regular notes and it was giving me like difficulty because it was like it stopped retaining the information, and all the work that I would put down, it would like disappear. And that was frustrating, and it really made me not want to do it, especially after I bought all this technology for it to be able to, you know, work really good, and it wasn't doing that. So I'm like, okay, it's not good. So I got a different app instead of the regular notes from iCloud, because they said it was like a syncing issue when I looked it up really quickly. Excuse me. So I got Google Keep, and that also wasn't anything beneficial because my notes disappeared there as well. And so I was recommended time and time after again, good notes. So now I'm using good notes, and thankfully nothing has deleted just yet. So we're gonna see for this whole session that I'm doing 4 hours of music for study and concentration and memory. I'm gonna use this repetitively, continuously at the same time each day. And probably sometimes it's going to be a little bit earlier, but all different settings. But I'm going to have routine, of course, multiple different routines for different assignments. So I'm just going to see how that is, but I'm going to break down the learning portion of this right now. So I'm going to save this video, and right now I'm going to try this glitchy. Oh, because it's not plugged in properly? Because it's being utilized. So, well, whenever this is gonna die, I might just switch and get a different wire. But I'm also gonna look up how long on the LSAT do we actually usually have. LSAT. How long is this? 3 hours and 45 minutes, and this is a 4-hour thing. So the LSAT writing section is 35 minutes timed essay. So they also have that prep on LSAT facts. And then I was supposed to follow this study formula back in April 2025, but I'm going to start from now, and I'm going to take it again in April 2026. I also want to take it in the winter time before spring. I also want to take it in December. So I'm going to take diagnostics over and over again, but officially I'm taking that one, the LSAT that I'm going to pay for in April. But I'm going to do these diagnostics repeatedly throughout that time. So right now I'm learning the reading comprehension skills again, and I've been using different platforms, and so like that's been frustrating me. So sharing this is like a little video diary, so I can like talk about my journey in LSAT studying and me getting to law school, because I know I want to get there. I know this is not just going to be like something that I'm literally just saying, because I'm tired of saying it. I need to be there. When I'm actually there, it's going to feel so surreal. And right now I'm going through some things financially and emotionally, but this is the only thing I hear God is telling me to do, so I'm going to do it. And without further ado, we're going to get into it.
The correct answer won't have the same subject matter as the passage. Instead, it will feature similar characteristics or themes as the element from the passage. So, we take these characteristics or themes from the passage and apply them to
Guess it's gonna take some getting used to having a camera on me while I'm studying.
New situations. You'll also apply information from the passage to new situations and hypothetical questions. These questions feature lengthy question steps, which invite us to consider what may happen in a hypothetical scenario. We'll use information from the passage to determine what might occur in this hypothetical.
You can enhance your learning with Ask Good Notes, AI-powered tools that are your studying sidekick. Summarize long notes into simple ideas, instantly translate, rephrase, or check grammar. Get explanations about text and lasso selections. Test your knowledge with quizzes and prompts. Productions, privacy, and a hope center. I was really looking for something that can straighten out the handwriting automatically. Timekeeper, which is going to be good. Text keyboard. I'm actually left-handed. Turn the paper sideways, so well, when it's straight up, don't write that way, write this way. What's vertical? Well, that's okay then. It's like, I think this is good for me because I don't have people here to like really talk to me right now, so I'm just like straight just working, and when, you know, people are talking to me, then that's going to be very different as well. I just have to keep the comments off and look but not talk when I'm doing practice tests. But for the purpose of learning, I think it's good that I get these thoughts out of my head. And who am I kidding? I'm here for 4 hours. All the way till April. So that 172. Okay, play now. What happens in a situation?
see in the illustration question, the two main question types in this family are strengthened and weakened questions. These are also very similar to two question types in logical reasoning called strengthened and weakened questions. These questions ask us to take information from the answer choices and apply that information to the passage. We'll look for the answer choice that, once applied to the passage, either strengthens or weakens the salient part of the passage. Typically, they ask us to strengthen or weaken a viewpoint, either the author's or someone else's. Very often, these questions ask us to strengthen or weaken a cause and effect relationship. So familiarity with the ways to strengthen and weaken the causal relationships, which you'll gain in a later logical reasoning module. Prove helpful on these questions. And that just about covers question time.
I'm gonna do a summary section. And then all the question types for logical reasoning. That's so cool. Girl from Queens, New York, going to Columbia. Wow. Application, 13%. Argument structure, 14%. Tone, 22%. major point, minor point. Minor point, 34%. Of reading comp. Of reading comp. I don't gotta write that repetitively. Question types. What's most on there is minor point questions. What's least on there is application. I wonder if the hardest stuff are on there more, and the hardest stuff to find are on there more, and the least hard things to find are less. Of sugar ants here, y'all. So I'm like in my head right now. I felt things coming because there literally probably are, but I don't see them right now. They're like so annoying. Application, which is like strengthening and weakening. No, that's hypothesis. Hypothetical, excuse me. Application is like analogous situation. Access to select the answer choice that mirrors something in the past, like an analogy. And then hi whoever's there, and thanks for the like. Oh my gosh, I'm in the zone now. Oh my gosh, y'all watching me my LSAT Prep. Tone is 22%. Of all reading comp. So I'm gonna highlight how much percentage each is, and I feel like that matters because then it helps me understand exactly what percentage is gonna be there. So the second highest after minor point is tone, and then after tone is major point with 17%, and then argument structure is 14%, and then application is 13%. So let's look back at this. Strings, access to select the answer choice with the rule that corrects the premise to the author's conclusion, which is like supporting detail. Organization, access to select the answer choice that accurately describes the entire passage's structure. Role of detail. Role of there's two types of detail, role of detail and another one. Author's attitude, which is tone. Pick the answer choice to accurately describe the author's feelings or sentiments. Let me go to my notes where I was having an issue, but there's some that is there. So major point accounts for 17% of reading comp, which relies on the main point you anticipated after reading the passage. Select the answer choice. Major point you most anticipated. answer choices can be wrong if they focus too narrowly on the part of the passage. They assert something that's not necessarily true to the passage. Methods of reasoning, primary purpose of what the author is concerned with, access to identify the themes expressed by entire passage. The strategies rely on the meta structure identified after reading. Title, it was last put on the 2015 test. When it was last used, access for the appropriate title, I select. Needs to be similar to the main point. Extensions, ask, which can be a last sentence, must relate to the main point. Must be true, accounts for 20% of all reading questions, and this falls under major point. The correct answer choice must be true according to the passage. Minor point, accounts for 34% of all reading questions. Principle number 3, anticipate the correct answer whenever possible. This is the most, so can use notes to anticipate what the correct answer will say and eliminate likely wrong answers. Can use a minor metastructure to answer. Must be true with guidance. Will ask about a specific topic or viewpoint from the passage. The strategies, use your notes to, of course, anticipate the correct answer. Must be true with no guidance. It won't ask about a specific topic or viewpoint. The passage most strongly suggests which one of the following statements is true. Or will ask about a topic or viewpoint discussed extensively through the passage. You can't anticipate. The strategies rely on the main point and notes to assess answer choices. If an answer choice is consistent with the main point and related to a summary, check the passage to verify it's correct. If an answer choice is inconsistent with the main point or unrelated to a summary, table the answer choice and check the remaining must be true. Bizarro, we use terms like except or nor. The correct answer is not necessarily true. The incorrect answer choices must be true. If an answer choice is consistent with the main point of our notes, eliminate. So it has to be wrong here. If an answer choice is inconsistent with the main point or unrelated to the summary, select after eliminating other choices. The reading method. Set of tasks to complete when reading a passage will provide a roadmap to the correct answer. Takes time, but will also allow me to answer the questions more quickly. Eventually, I can complete the task more quickly. Later, I can subtract tasks and see what works for me as a tailored guide. Task, read 3 times, complete 1 task each reading when starting out and getting used to the reading method. This will ensure we can understand the passage and build skills. Metastructure refers to the ways arguments are structured in reading passages. Descriptive passages, problem solution, phenomenon explanation, generalization, example, 4 question answer, 5 innovative subject, critical passage, criticizing a viewpoint, rebutting critics, correcting the record, old approaches and new approaches, debating passages, describe a debate, resolving a debate. Rare passages, proposing a hypothesis. Paradox resolution. Importance of a subject, reporting a viewpoint, main point, what the author wants us to take away from the passage, functions like a conclusion of an argument and logical reasoning, sometimes summarized in 1 or 2 sentences of the passage, often the last sentence of the first or last paragraph. Look for the conclusionary words like therefore, thus, clearly, so, hence. Look for pivot words like however, but, although, or, nonetheless. Must be supported by premise or a subsidiary conclusion. Sometimes we have to summarize this for the author. Consider the answer passages acts implicitly or consider the question the passage acts implicitly or explicitly. The answer the author agrees with is the main point. Organization. After reading each paragraph, identify its role in the passage's argument. Write down on scratch paper paragraph 1, author's conclusion, critics' views, and author's main points. This is just the example. Paragraph 2, author support, characters and motifs. Paragraph 3, author support structure based on dilemmas, tales. Paragraph 4, author support initiatory journey narrative from stories. Okay, this is a specific example. So in this case, the conclusion is in the first paragraph. Author's attitude, strong adjectives and adverbs, conveys judgments or values, expresses author's level of certainty, for example, indicates or suggests versus could support. Sophisticated technical vocabulary. Reading, analyzing, connection, complex sentences, sophisticated technical vocab, nuanced ideas, analyzing, argument structure, main point, premise, sometimes multiple arguments. Reading comp requires us to become experts in the main point of the role of each paragraph, the author's opinions. We do not have to become experts in the small details. Why? Reading comp. In law school, you'll have to analyze the decision and reasoning in judicial cases, have to provide accurate recap. Reading comp reflects this by rewarding test takers who can identify a passage's main point, its organization, and the author's opinion. Reading comp shows law schools you can quickly and relatably identify these structural features. One comparative passage, focus on solitary passages. Don't worry about how long you're reading the passages. Do homework passages untimed. Reading 3 passages very well, then go into reading the last passage. Principles. Number 1, start by doing too much at first. Removing tasks is easier than adding. For now, complete all tasks. Take my time to understand and reread if needed to. Eventually, I'll be able to identify patterns. Looking back at the passage, at most once per question. Anticipate the correct answer whenever possible. Saves time and mental energy. Can even select the correct answer without reading all the answer choices. So now I'm going back into the last time I studied, which was January 24th, 2025. Logical reasoning on the LSAT. Key, how you approach these questions. Short passage, question, stem, answer choices. 1 correct answer, 4 correct answers, facts, and arguments. So I'm going back into logical reasoning just to review, even though I was doing reading comp. But I think I should finish this. But I do want to reflect to go back to what's an argument and critical reading. I wonder if I can copy and paste what's here and paste it onto. I dead can paste it into my other notebook. Okay, I'm gonna do that after I reflect. Logical reasoning on the LSAT. Key, how you approach these questions. Short passes, facts, argument, question, stem, answer choices. 1 incorrect, 4 incorrect answers. Don't rush into the question. Understand the information they're giving me. This increases my speed. Do these things accurately in 35 minutes. The key is getting questions correct. This will help me increase my understanding. Think critically of an argument and then understand how it's structured. Be able to identify conclusions of arguments. Understand how we arrived. Arguments are what someone is trying to convince me of, and it has a final statement. And I provide support. Set of facts and don't arrive at. Set of facts do not arrive at a final conclusion. Argument, the more work you do. Argument is more work to do, and how the author arrives at this conclusion. When you provide support, that's a set of facts that do not arrive at the final conclusion, which is your premise. Okay. What is an argument? A structure built of statements intended to persuade. The conclusion is the claim the author wants to prove. The premise is the evidence the author includes in an argument. A table needs legs, like a conclusion needs premise to prop it up. Critical reading, structural reading, active reading. So step 1 is to understand the statements we read. Why is structure tested? Lawyers really care about structure in the documents they write and in the documents written by other lawyers. Law schools also really care about structure. I'll have to identify the decision, conclusion, and facts. rules, premise, and judicial opinions. Structural words are clues in some arguments. Pivot words are clues in some arguments. Tonal words are clues in some arguments. The why test method is useful in any argument. Structural words that introduce premise and conclusions. Premise words are since, as, moreover, because, given that, in addition, for, after all, and this is shown by. Conclusion words are therefore, so, as a result, this, it follows, consequently, hence, clearly, this shows that. Structural words in two-part sentences is hidden conclusions. So part one is since, because, no, okay, so this is what it's doing, it's breaking down structural words in two-part sentences. So the hidden conclusions in part two. Part one is blah, 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 comma, since, because, as, for, given that, part two. So it has to be one thing, since, as, because, for, given that, and then there's part two. So that's like a hidden conclusion there. And so now pivot words introduce a point where the author shifts from one topic to another, but yet still, despite, however, nonetheless, although, rather, nevertheless. However, sometimes they do not introduce the conclusion, often used when asserting an argument's conclusion. Confirming that a pivot word introduces the conclusion. Statements following a pivot word is a potential conclusion, but we need to confirm that it's an actual conclusion. If the potential conclusion is not supported by other statements, it's a premise or background information, not the conclusion. If a potential conclusion supports another statement, it's a premise or subsidiary conclusion, not the main conclusion. If a potential conclusion is supported by other statements and the potential conclusion doesn't support another statement, the potential conclusion is an actual conclusion. So I'm going to read this again. Statements following a pivot word is a potential conclusion, but we need confirmation that it's the actual conclusion. Okay, I get that. So I can say since, as, because, therefore, and all of those other pivot words, but I have to confirm that. So if the potential conclusion is not supported by other statements, it's a premise or background information. It's not the conclusion. If a potential conclusion supports another statement, it's a premise or subsidiary conclusion, not the main conclusion. If a potential conclusion is supported by other statements and potential conclusion doesn't support other statements, another statement, the potential conclusion is the actual conclusion. So when nothing else can sit there and support it, when that specific statement can't be the supporting factor for another statement, then that's the actual conclusion. So tonal words are words that express authors' opinions. Authors really believe in their conclusions so strong. Opinionated language often appears in an argument's conclusion. Tonal words, strong adjectives, bold claims. Unfortunately, these sometimes don't introduce the conclusion. Bold claims convey judgments and values, describe whether something is good or bad, describe whether something is important. Should statements confirming tonal words appear in the conclusion. A statement with tonal words is a potential conclusion, but we need confirmation that it's the actual conclusion, just like it with the pivot words up there. So this is repetition, and with repetition, the law test has a lot of repetition in her, so this is good. If the potential conclusion is not supported by other statements, it's a premise or background information, not the actual conclusion. If the potential conclusion supports another statement, it's a premise or subsidiary conclusion, not the main conclusion. If the potential conclusion is supported by other statements and the potential conclusion is supported by other statements and the potential conclusion in question doesn't support another statement, the potential conclusion is the actual conclusion. So you have to have other statements support this one conclusion. As long as that conclusion can't support another statement, then that's the final conclusion. The why test. Most often we find the main conclusion when the argument features more than one potential conclusion. One is the main conclusion, the other is the subsidiary intermediate conclusion, supported by a premise but supports another statement. Potential conclusion A, potential conclusion B. Let me read that again. Most often used to find the main conclusion when the argument features more than one potential conclusion. One is the main conclusion, the other is the subsidiary intermediate conclusion, supported by a premise but supports another statement. So potential conclusion A, which is why, potential conclusion A because potential conclusion B. Does this make sense to you? If so, potential conclusion B supports potential conclusion A. That means potential conclusion B is the subsidiary conclusion, and potential conclusion A is the main conclusion. Or flip. Why potential conclusion B? Because potential conclusion A. If so, potential conclusion A supports potential conclusion B. That means potential conclusion A is the subsidiary conclusion. Potential conclusion B is the main conclusion. So if you flip it, it's like vice versa. So one has to support the other. This was a prep test that I was taking. So I have to slow down, translate, active reading, active translate, subject, verb, objective, the doer or haver, you crush the LSAT, end quotes. The verb is the action. Objective is what the verb affects or what the subject has. You, which is the subject, verb, crushed the LSAT, which is the object. SUO, translation, subject. What's that? So SUO translation is, let's read. Translating the LSAT confusing sentences into simple subject, verb, objective. Oh, that's a V. Subject, verb, objective. SVO. It's okay to change the subject. Can label if or when parts of sentences. Can take the people making the, I wrote this really sloppy, out of the subject, verb, objective sentence. Label critics or scientists. Okay, so you can take the people out, but you can just say, instead of saying their name, I can just say like this is that. I could be like, instead of saying Kim, I could say her. I need a sip of water. If the sentence is very complex, you can take out the if part. The sentence complex, oh, I wrote that twice. Old belief. This is a specific type of, I was doing a prep test. Contextual definitions or logical reasoning, often unnecessary. We care more about the argument structure than the meaning of the words. I'm going to definitely go back into logical reasoning. Subject, verb, objectives. Some scientists view A equals B. If science is correct, B would C and D. Professor observations, B didn't C or D. Professor conclusions, A never causes B. Double negatives often appear to make claims more complicated. Untangling double negatives can require extra cognitive effect and time, so it's helpful to start practicing now. Thanks for letting me know. Positive mindset plus double negatives. When translating a claim with two negative words, remove both negative words, making the claim positive. It's not true that her speech was inappropriate. Her speech was appropriate. Like math, kinda. Is my thing coming off? I'm gonna just put that on after. There is no reason to doubt, so no reason in doubt, that new species are emerging at about the same rate. So they are emerging at the same rate. New species are emerging at about the same rate. Nobody would argue that purchasing insurance is an unwise use of resources. Purchasing insurance is a wise use of resources. The mayor was not telling the truth when he said the bridge renovation did not waste taxpayers' money. Bridge renovations wasted the taxpayers' money. Practice positive mindset. Translate each claim with a double negative into a positive SVO sentence. Students would not learn curricular context without incentive of grades. Learning curricular content requires grades. Democracy is not possible in the absence of government. Democracy requires government by consent. Oh, absence of government by consent. Democracy requires government by consent. The critic does not provide legitimate grounds to reject the book's claims about the drug's side effects. The book claims may be legit. Maybe. New evidence indicates that a recent property development boarding a national park has not adversely affected the park's wildlife. Recent property developments had a neutral or positive effect on wildlife. Vague negative statements such as "those critics are mistaken" and "that is not appropriate" goal often show up as the conclusion of an argument. That is not an appropriate goal often show up as the conclusion of an argument. Vague negative statements. Critical reading. This was breaking down step 3 of step 1 is understanding the statements we read. Step 2 is knowing which statements are premises and which are conclusions. Step 3 is determining why the argument is flawed for critical reading. Strong claim statements with a lot of propositional power or force. SCOTUS is shoulds, certainties, onlys, the most universal selection. Bold claims are hard to prove. All dogs are brown. Table's up, the table falls down. One non-brown dog. Bold claims are usually not persuasive conclusions. Does that mean bold claims are inherently bad? No, bold claims are good premises. So they're like the legs of the table. Bold claims are sometimes persuasive claims. Think of bold claims in terms of the leeway they offer. Some dogs are brown. Premise, some dogs are brown. Conclusions, that dog must be brown. A lot of leeway for attack. 2 principles. In arguments, conclusion can't be bolder than its premise. Always true. An argument's conclusions can't be bolder than its premise. I have pink glasses is the conclusion. All glasses are pink. That's too bold. No. Generally, an argument is unpersuasive if its conclusion is very bold. That's usually true. That wasn't persuasive that all glasses are pink. Like, no. Or should I say multicolored? 52% of logical reason question it. So that's like more than half. Strategy. For questions that ask us to analyze an argument's pertinentiveness, if you notice a SCOTUS claim in the conclusion of an argument, check the premise to see. So if I notice a should, certainties, only, the most universal, or selections, check to see. Some things got deleted out, which is unfortunate for me, because I was having some difficulty with the pen and I just didn't want to write over again, so I went to a different app. But it's okay because I'm still picking up what I put down. Oh, I did timing in December. I studied timing in 12/24/24. Anyway, back to this. What I did in January. Oh, so was that like a whole month after? Oh, no, this is January 15. Oh, I did this January 15. One was the 16. And then one was January something I said earlier. I guess I tapped it and it changed on that date. Anyhow. 42% of reading comp questions. So check the premise to see if there's less bold than the conclusion. If so, we found a reason why the argument is unpersuasive. Let me go. 52% of logical reasoning questions is with these bold points, these 2 principles. Okay. Strategy. For questions that can ask us to analyze an argument's persuasiveness. 1. If you notice a SCOTUS claim in the conclusion of an argument, check the premise to see if they're less bold than the conclusion. If so, we found a reason why the argument is unpersuasive. 10% of logical reasoning questions, 42% of reading comp questions. The strategy. For questions that ask us to connect facts and draw a conclusion. 1. If you notice a SCOTUS claim in an answer choice, 2, check the passage to see if there's equally bold support. 3, if not, the answer choice draws an unpersuasive conclusion. Shoulds. Statements that say should or ought to be done. Sometimes, or says or avoided. I don't know what word that is. I know it says avoided there. Sometimes called prescriptive statements. Certainties. Statements expressed with absolute or near absolute certainty. Certainties must, always, definitely, necessarily, will, is law. Is law. My handwriting. Certainties are very bold conclusions. Any possible choice to the author, any possible chance the author is wrong makes the conclusion unpersuasive. Certainties are very bold. Any possible chance the author is wrong makes the conclusion unpersuasive. Certainties are pretty good premises. Certain premises provide a lot of evidence. People have no leeway to question whether there's enough evidence to support the conclusion. What will make you more likely to grab an umbrella? It might rain tomorrow. It will rain tomorrow. It will rain tomorrow. That's a certainty. Like, what do you mean might? It will rain. Well, honestly, I still grab an umbrella if they said might, but I have to have the most persuasive one. So that's true. My mom used to be like, oh, it might rain, take your umbrella, but she's trying to do like preparation. But sometimes I leave it. But when she say it will, oh, I'm quick to grab that umbrella because this hair I'm not about to get messed up. I'd be like, it's gonna rain. Put your umbrella in your bag. Got you. But even then, sometimes I did. But I know for sure, like now that I'm older, I'm definitely putting that umbrella in my bag. So only statements that exclude all possible factors, entities, explanations from consideration except for one, sometimes called statements of exclusivity. Only, entirely, surely, purely, wholly, no more. Onlys are very bold conclusions, bringing up any relevant factor, entity, or explanation that the author ignores, making the conclusion unpersuasive. Onlys are pretty good premises. Allows one to draw precise or bold conclusions. The most, sometimes called superlative statements. The most, the best, etc. Like, remember the yearbook where they're like superlative, the most. The most silly, the best dresser, things of that nature. The most are very bold of a given quality claims, especially when the group is large. Universals, those statements are when you have the most. Universals are statements that apply to everyone or everything in a group. All, every, any, people, who, each, those, who. Universals relate to conditional reasoning. This is where I learn more in fundamental skills, reading and analyzing conditional statements module. Selection statements in which are, so I gotta learn more about universal and conditional statements. So that makes you understand that it conditions you to know universals, like all. Selections, so I gotta figure out that structure, fundamental skills. Selection statements in which one option is chosen over others are also inherently comparative. A is bigger than B, A is better than B, A is healthier than B, A is sappier than B. Whatever that word was. Selections are sneakily bold claims. They assume that A's merit outweighs B's and B's downsize outweighs A's. Like, yeah, I get that. Like, for example, spring water from New York is better than nice purified water in Florida. Honestly, I ain't gonna lie, this tastes pretty good. I like water anywhere as long as you don't got pickles and stuff in it, which I'm grateful for. Time and video speed, 250 words per minute. 250 words per minute. LSAT section 4 4,500 words. Solution number 1, try to work faster. Bring wrong tools to the job. Don't do it. Don't try to work faster. Solution number 2, don't think about speed. Phase 1, study curriculum, understanding accuracy. Phase 2, practice timed exercises, practice tests, target scores. Have a target score, practice test, timed exercises. Stay calm and collected. Use strategies from phase 1. Anticipate what the correct answer would look like. Slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. The point of the LSAT isn't to finish the sections. It's to earn as many points as you can. Target score determines how many questions you could skip and guess. This is for a score of 178 to 180. The secret is don't think about speed. And I do want that high of a score. I keep saying 172, but let me hit that 178, 180. Like that. I gotta update my iPad. Okay, bet. So now I'm about to go back into these notes and
Types. There are a few question types we skipped because they're so rare. And we'll cover how those question types get altered on comparative passages and comparative passages model. We hope this lesson helps you understand the 5 families of reading level questions and all the individual question types that make up those families.
I want to draw like this circle that they have for these question types here, just so I can get like a visual diagram that they presented to me. So we got a circle. Well, let me turn the color blue. Did I get my thing to charge this? Well, weekend is about this much. Strengthen. Oh my gosh, they're changing the color so quickly. Strengthen is about this much. Illustration is about this much. You know what? I'm gonna follow the same color structure as this, so I can like have a better understanding. This is like a teal green. I feel like this color coding to match what it's written in will help me break down. So, can I add like a shape here? Yeah. Ooh, I made it perfect. And then I want another one around it. Nice. Can I move it? Do dark for weekend. Matter of fact, I'm gonna have a line. Well, I'll just color it after. I'm gonna just use black and then color them in. And then write them at the top. So, weekend, main point. Methods of reasoning, extension, must be true. Damn. Kind of like main point. So this is a good chunk of main point. Extension, must be true. Must be true. No, that's with guidance. This is with no guidance. So let me see. Must be true. So this circle probably got to be a little bigger. It works. This must be true. Bizarro. Meaning in context. Author agrees. Meaning in context. Hey, go back. Meaning in context. Author agrees. Author attitude. Oh, this gotta be way bigger. But now that I know that, I can do a better job. It's gotta be way bigger. It's gotta be a little bit smaller. But then I also need space to write around it. So, wow. I just copy that. This looks kind of exactly like it, but this is perfect, at least for now. So if I look straight, weaken, strengthen, illustration, hypothetical, analog situation, principle, strengthen, organization, nail popped off, all of a paragraph, role of detail, author's attitude, no. Analog situation. No, that has to be a little thinner. Weaken, strengthen, illustration. Can this, oh no. Can I make it? Question types up there after. I think I want analogous situation. Hey Siri, analogous definition. Analogous definition. Comparable and certain. Hey Siri, analogous definition. Comparable in certain respects, typically in a way that which makes clearer the nature of things compared. So it's like comparison. Okay. Yeah, principle, strengthen, organization, roll of paragraph. Hey, go back. Diffusion. Weaken, strengthen, illustration, hypothetical, analogous, principle, strengthen, organization, roll of paragraph. That's what the other one was. Roll of detail is much bigger. I don't know, a little too big. Roll of detail. Author's attitude. No. Roll of detail is like even a little less. Roll of detail. Author's attitude. Almost half. Author agrees. A little bit more. Yeah. Meaning in context. This kind of gives me like statistics of like, I know they choose them at random, but like what types of like, I don't know if lawyers write the test or I know it's people in the bar, but like it helps me like see a statistic of like how they think and who is like what they, the way they think, the way they graded it. and the percentages of what types of people are in there, like what they like to write. I don't know. This makes me think. I need to stop saying I don't know, because I do know. I feel like it gives me a percentage of what I should expect in law school, like what types of people or mindsets they have out there, at least. This is meaning in context. Must be true. Let me do this a little bit bigger. Meaning in context. Must be true. Bizarro. Must be true. No guidance. Must be true with guidance. So the main point is that we're coming to up here. So the methods of reasoning, extension. Well, I'm gonna put this here. Main point. No. Main point. Methods of reasoning and extension. Now I can fill them in, color code them. I'm gonna add another one like a light blue. We have black there. We have the light green, the teal green. It's like a dark purple. Let me add the dark purple. We have the light blue. Okay, that. So dark purple, author agrees. Wait, can I do like a color dump, like a paint dump? I'm gonna go lay down. I'm itching, y'all. I'm gonna take a bath and I'm gonna just lay down. Oh, I'm itching, y'all. I just feel like this house is so itchy. Like just knowing that there's like little ants anywhere, could be anywhere, hidden anywhere, just eating me up. Like, that's so weird. Anyhow, we must keep going. Analogous of principal strength. I'm gonna just color it in. Hey, oh. I don't know how to dump. Weekend. Author agrees. Hey, not good at all. So I'm gonna go keep this pattern. Weekends, author agrees. Author agrees is the most. And if I want, I can go back and put the percentages there. I don't gotta be perfect, but as long as it's filled in. We're not even halfway through. I originally did say 12 a.m. But, you know, it's just teal organization. I know if I shower, I'm gonna just want to lay down, and I probably won't want to come back. But if I had to, I would. I had a Twitch fan base. I'll be on there. No, because then I'll be talking and I'm talking about chat. And this this is kind of similar, except I'm just talking to myself, which is good. No distractions. While I create my little study guide and my question types. I'm so glad I got through like all the question types, so nothing is a surprise for me on a test, because like I recognize the question, like I'll actually be able to recognize it. Blue is must be true with guidance. Must be true, no guidance is black. There was more mint greens. I really recommend the LSAT test prep because I actually feel like I'm learning something, and I can't wait to like actually apply it to the questions. No, actually, I definitely can wait. I don't like using that word. I can't wait. Can't help but wait. I can't help but wait. No, I could wait. Oh no, that gotta fix. Author's attitude is also in light blue. I gotta fix the analogous situation because that's a light blue, not mint blue. Not that good. Ooh. No, not that good. Oh, feels so itchy. Ooh, Lord, I'm gonna have to go in the bath because this is insanity. How do I make this a little smaller? I just wanna erase it without erasing this whole entire thing. Is there a way I can make the eraser smaller? I might just have to go over it. Oh. Auto deselect. That's not something I can do now. How do I make it smaller? Oh, like that. Nice. Let me do a little bit more. Honestly, let's see if I can like redraw that circle. Oh yeah, I can. So let me turn this black. And then hit them with the nice. I reconstructed it. Oh no. And then blue. Beautiful. And I can turn this back blue. That sounds like the congressman when I was on Democracy Fellows. He's like, yeah, we made it back blue. I wish I could rewatch that. That was so cool. I don't recall which state that was for. But he's like, yeah, we finally got it back blue with the fellows. Like, we took it back. We took it back. What just happened? What? Oh, no. Go back. How do I go back forward? Like, you know, I can't go forward. You know, it's okay. I probably can in some way. Just gotta figure out how. Probably a lot of things that I don't know how to do here that I just gotta figure out. Oh my goodness. Oh, because they think I'm still doing that. No. Why is everything I'm writing erasing? I think this is good enough. Let me not be a perfectionist. Yeah. I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna draw a black line here. All that entire day. And now I'm gonna take the black and go in with the hypothetical. And this one must be true with no guidance. This is how I remembered and passed my biology class when I took the test. Full of detail. Like without this way, I don't know how I would have done it. Like I need visuals alongside written diagrams and speaking things out loud when studying. And then when it comes time to the test, it's just like about retention and remembering everything that I studied. Like this becomes visually like pasted in my head. Light blue, purple, organization. All the detail is here. I'd probably be watching Suits right now. But spoiler alert, Mike is in jail, so it's not much suiting going on. I eventually want to get to the end of it by August 22nd when my Netflix subscription cancels. Which I know I will, but then I was also trying to start watching Girl Boss. That's been pretty good to me. She's a little off, but I guess that's what I enjoy about watching it. There's illustration, no more black, so I have to go back to the light blue. So peaceful right now. I know LSAT Prep could be so peaceful. It's like therapy in a way. What you're running from is probably always what you really need. So this 3 must be true. It must be true with guidance, no guidance, and then bizarro. Follow the paragraph. Strengthen. No, that's illustration. But I'm filling in right now. I gotta repeat that. This attitude, I think I got down pretty much like what the author is trying to convey. What's he trying to say? But like, in what ways he's saying it? Like, the question, without, do he like it? Like, what is really his opinion for real about this? They say like lawyers are lifelong learners. Like, literally, when you're doing these LSAT questions, it's like there's always something to learn in it, which is true, because you're reading all these passages about all these verified informations, and all they're doing is just asking you questions about it. So you really gotta do like to read, which I do. So that's pretty cool. And I'm gonna go on back with my purple. Fill in this author 3 section. Visualization's always been so helpful to me. I think the last thing is this teal color for the meaning and context. Right now I'm about to fix my methods of reasoning and my, what's this one, strengthening question. This one is my methods of reasoning. Otherwise, meaning and context. This is literally gonna be me studying for my bar exam. Just peaceful. Right. There's only one bridge and then there's another. I think you just pass your bar exam. It's not like I'm trying to get somewhere else until just a law firm. I think I just gotta pass it. I don't think I really need to have like such a high score. But this one, if you want to get to somewhere really high, you gotta prep your mind to say that you want a high score. And I do when I get somewhere really high. I'm gonna do what I need to do to get there. Like studying all these shapes and percentages. I think what is harder for me to understand about the test is the way it's being administered, and I think that's why it was always like so hard for me to actually understand it when it came time to prep, because I didn't understand the administration process. And now I'm starting to learn more, and now I do. It's like learning math all over again. Y equals mx plus b. Like, I'm literally learning the percentages of how much something is gonna be given in, so I can effectively brace myself for it, you know? And the increments that it's given, which I think is really cool that this prep does that for you. Thanks to Marin, shout out to him. Really like amazing. God bless him. Without him, I don't even know where I would have started. Like, I don't know. Organization is right here, right under principal strengths. And now I'm about to go and clean up the outer layer. Too much of it, but just like maybe I don't have to outline it like that. I can try. I don't think it matters. Oh, it's actually really perfect. Just gotta keep going and don't stop, even when I think I'm about to mess up. Kinda like life. You know, I also have to be a little bit more engaged with my core, and I do have a shaky hand, but it's okay. I gotta see the end. Oh, I gotta see the angle and pay attention to each edge. I can do it. You just gotta pay attention to how I'm doing it. Nice. And there we have. It looks almost identical. What? I'm really an artiste for real. And so now I'm gonna go ahead and label them, and I get to see like a visual diagram of what question types that I still need help with for the reading comp. Look at that. Question types there, question types there. Let's end out our video.
Now that you've learned about the reading comp section, the method we'll use to read and understand the passage, and the different types of questions we'll encounter, we're ready to tackle a passage together. So join us in the final video of this module, where we'll cover a passage from the June 2004 LSAT.
Year after I was born. I'm definitely gonna have to relearn logical reasoning, but I just did all this reading comp for these past 2 days, so yeah. Practice passage 26 minutes. Gonna practice passage 1 to 5 questions. Practice passage 6 to 8, and then homework 28 questions for passage there. Shall we about to be 2 hours in? Wait, did I just press the same thing? Oh, I just exited that. I need to charge my phone. Realistically speaking, I'm probably, not my phone, my iPad. Realistically speaking, I'll probably have to charge both. I'm probably gonna stop on my Apple Pencil dazed. Okay, I shouldn't do that. I should just continue. Because realistically speaking, if I get them right and I just take it in December, then it's just like, oh, well, hi, law school. See you in the fall. No, because then I would want to finish my MBA. Like, imagine I get like a 175. I meant to say in the spring. I said see you in the fall. Imagine. No, because they're not going to accept me by then. Well, listen, they could see me right when they supposed to see me. 2020. That's not right. How many? I said we almost 2 hours in, and then I just made my way forward. So I went to 158 because I didn't know where I was at before. I'm trying to skip. My computer died in. Here's that. Wait, what was I on before? Like, why would that happen? It's not going to tell me. I think I was there. I'm going to add this to mine. Let's save. I'm going to create a new playlist. Study music playlist. And it's going to be public so y'all can see my study. I'm going to make it public. Why did I plug in my phone? And the phone was never the priority. So what I'm seeing is both things here are dying. This don't like to charge, like, while I'm using the iPad. It's let me be great. Probably gonna have to end, y'all. But if I end, best believe I'm still locked in, even if I have to end. But I really wanted to see how, like, I do these passages. Ooh, almost blood. Oh, I thought I was done wrong. I want to see how well I can do these passages. After 2 days of studying. Now here's the real battle. 25 minutes. Practice passages. Wait, no, I forgot to list. Look at my brain.
The behavioral, their logical reasoning mind will prove helpful in these questions. And that just about covers the question types. For a few question types we skipped because they're so rare, and we'll cover how these question types get altered on comparative passages and comparative passages alone. We hope this lesson helps you understand why families have different questions and all of the individual question types that they control.
So I got a thing of the families and I just gotta write their names. So I'm gonna color code the families and then the question types. But first I gotta take a selfie. Zoom in, please, thank you. Strengthen. No. Let me make this a little bit more skinny. Thinner line. Strengthen. Organization. This is hold on, I know it. I know organization, strengthen. I have the most. This is reading in context. Author agree. Damn. Meaning in context. So this one has to be methods of reasoning. I said reasoning in context. Meaning in context. Up here is methods of reasoning. Main point. Keep the main point the main point. is the plot. It's illustration. Very small. I guess they want me to see like the word right out. What the text? What like do they paint out a vision? Like what they're trying to say? I don't know. We're gonna see when we do the work. Must be true. Right. Bizarre. Some type of bizarre answer. This is the roll of paragraph. This is roll of detail right here. So, yep. Hypothetical. Must be true, no guidance. This must be true with guidance. Author agreed. Yep, author's attitude. Like, what's his sentiments? How you really feeling, boss? And analogies, analogous situation. Analogous situation. Everything here is good until I'm gonna make main point a little closer to the main point just so we can keep the main point. I want it to be written like the rest of them. I know it's right. Because ain't nothing like meaning and context must be true, bizarre, must be true, no guidance, must be true guidance. Methods of reasoning, main point. Right here is missing my weakening. My weaken. How can I forget they better spawn? Please. Something's missing. Principle, strengthen, and it was also purple. I bet. Analogous situation, principle situation, strengthen, organization, roll of paragraph, roll of detail, author's attitude, author agree, meaning and context, meaning, not meaning be true, must be true, like, hello. Must be true, no guidance, must be true, guidance, methods of reasoning, main point, we can share. Another day I'll coordinate them by color for the summary? Yeah, I'll just do it now. I'm already on it. No. I actually don't have to do that. Because it doesn't do it for me. I don't think the color really matters. But here, it helps me clearly see and visualize. Just like how it was before. And now I gotta go into next mountain, practice passage.
Hey, it's Rob once again. In the previous video lessons in this module, we've given you an overview of the reading comprehension section, the three-step reading method, and the different kinds of questions we're encountering. Why don't we try to read one of these passages now? We've selected a fun yarn from the June 2004 test, Prep Test 43. We'll be doing the second passage, which is a social sciences passage. You and I will go over the passage together, but I won't sit here and read the passage to you. This isn't story time, and you're not a child. We're preparing to take a test where you'll have to read and analyze the passages. If I just read and explained these passages to you, like, well, not to call them out, but like many other LSAT curricula do, you wouldn't get any practice reading or analyzing these passages. You may gain an illusion of understanding, but you wouldn't be engaging in the practice that will ultimately help you develop as a test taker. So, as we go over the passages, you'll read them and analyze them. After each paragraph, I'll ask you a few questions to make sure you're extracting all the important info from that paragraph. When I ask you these questions, try answering them. You can even talk to me and pretend like we're having a conversation. That might feel a little strange to you, but that's what I'm doing on my end.
So what you want me to do is, one, know that you ain't gonna read this to me, and you're not gonna explain it to me. When a paragraph show up, I gotta pause and read it, and I gotta try answering y'all questions about the paragraph after reading it. And you want me to talk to you like how you talking to me? I bet.
So we can be LSAT weirdos together.
Bet.
Answering my questions is how you'll test whether you are extracting all the crucial info from the passage. And if you answer any questions incorrectly, I'll give you some tips on how you could approach that paragraph differently.
Got here, buddy?
Staying engaged and answering my questions is how you'll grow as a test taker. Let's dive into this passage then. And remember, we'll read this 3 times. On the first reading, we're just trying to gain.
You know what I'm gonna do? One of these days, I'm gonna probably try to connect it to my projector, and we're gonna do LSAT Prep together. And I can do it from the comfort of my bedroom, and I can just have it projected on the wall. I'm gonna put my phone up, and y'all just gonna see what I be doing. Why it looks so intimidating? Like, why is you talking about any little mini things? That's too small. Even with me zooming in, I can't see child.
General understanding as we read. So I'll ask you a few questions about that paragraph's content. After reading the entire passage, we'll think about the main point. Let's dig in, starting with paragraph 1. I'll keep this short paragraph on the screen for 5 seconds.
In many bilingual communities of Puerto Rico, Americans living in the mainland United States. What? Wait, this is not the first paragraph. Wait, that's the first.
Incorrectly, I'll give you some tips
Why
on
does
how you
it
could
start off
approach
like
that
that?
paragraph differently.
I have to rewind it.
Staying engaged and answering my questions is how you'll grow as a test taker. Let's dive into this passage then. And remember, we'll read this 3 times. On the first reading, we're just trying to gain a general understanding as we read. So I'll ask you a few questions about that paragraph's content. After reading the entire passage, we'll think about the main point. Let's dig in, starting with paragraph 1. I'll keep this short paragraph on the screen for 5 seconds.
In many bilingual communities of Puerto Rico, Americans living in the United States. People use both English and Spanish in a single conversation, alternating between the smoothly them. We're gonna do that again. In many bilingual communities of Puerto Rico, I pray I'm not dyslexic. I think that's one of my learning disabilities that ain't diagnosed. Like, I just create my own stuff. And then I have this like strange sense of ADHD that just hits me like a wave, and then you want me to study. I think that's what is the challenge for me. How embarrassing it is to incorrectly mess things up. But now that I'm aware that I'm messing these things up out loud, I can hear and see what I'm doing wrong because I can record it. In many bilingual communities of Puerto Rican Americans living in the mainland United States. Now I understand this sentence. And then like on the test when I take it, like sometimes I brain be going so fast, and then it's like, huh? Something about him saying 5 seconds. That's why I can pause it. Oh, shut up. In many bilingual communities of Puerto Rican Americans living in the mainland United States, people use both English and Spanish in a single conversation, alternating between them smoothly and even frequently, even within the same sentence. This practice, called code switching, is common in bilingual populations. While there are some cases that cannot currently be explained, in the vast majority of cases, subtle factors, either situational or rhetorical, explain the use of code switching. So I'm understanding what y'all are saying to me. What y'all are saying is, in the Puerto Rican communities over here in the U.S., they code switch in between. It's like speaking ebonics in English. It's like you talking like, so what do you mean you talking about? What do you mean you talking about? You trying to pull up on me with the op? Like, yo, you was never like that. Like, or a bro, you was never like that. Like, you was never doing that. I'm trying to figure out why he trying to be all tough. Like, he was never like that. The young man approached me and told me he was going to, and I quote, pull up with the ops, and that he's trying to be on my body. He trying to get that. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to code switch right now, just so I could put it into motion. Whatever the case may be. And that is an example of code switching. Now, let me try again. Let me speak Creole in English, since that's like easy. Pour qui ça devrait ça trop difficile, or it's so hard, like mbakone pour qui ça devrait ça miam miam, mbakone pour qui ça devrait ça, it's antagonizing me. That's a boom, that's a code switch. It means what ebonics in this. And it's not about accent, it's more so about how I'm trying to be portraying what I'm talking about. And the way I portray what I talk about specifically changes the way I enunciate my words, whether I'm with a group of people or if I'm with my homeboys. We trying to be outside. Me and my homegirls, like we trying to be, you know, with the vibes or whatever. And when I code switch like that, what I'm trying to tell you is that it's really up to the location that I'm at, the way I'm gonna be using these words in my sentences, how I'm going to probably enunciate around these different individuals. Okay, boom.
So, please pause the video and unpause once you've finished reading.
Well done. Made my own scenario as well. Continue.
Okay, so one paragraph down. Let's see if you got the gist of this paragraph. Let's start with a deceptively simple question. What is the subject of this paragraph? If you
The subject of the paragraph is bilingual communities.
said code switching or code switching among Puerto Rican Americans, give yourself a pat on the back. If you just said Puerto Rican Americans or Puerto Rican Americans living in the mainland U.S., then you were a little bit off.
Damn.
You may have been misled by a common tendency among test takers to assume that people are always the subject of a reading comprehension passage. As people, we have a tendency or bias to assume that fellow people are the most important subjects of a passage, and the test writers know this. When we get to the main point question, we'll see several options that make it seem like Puerto Rican Americans were the subject of the passage.
I said the community.
So, realizing that this passage is more about code switching in Puerto Rican communities than the Puerto Rican communities themselves is an important first step in avoiding some trap answer choices.
Okay.
To be sure,
The
people
subject
will
is
be the
code-
subjects of many, many reading comp passages, but not this one. How can we be sure? Well, the first sentence touches
The
on
sub-
Puerto Rican Americans.
Hold on, all that code switching I was doing, how I do not know the subject is code switching? That's the main point. The main point is the main point. That's what I was talking about this whole entire time when I was doing all of that. It's literally what I was doing. So I need to think about that.
Describes how they
Code
tend to
switching.
communicate. But the first, second, and third
Let me see what he's
sentences
talking about.
focus on code switching specifically. The passage is more about code switching in Puerto Rican communities than the Puerto Rican communities themselves is an important first step in avoiding some trap answer choices.
I'm gonna have to pause that
To
because
be
he locked
sure,
in.
people will be the subjects of many, many reading comp passages, but not this one.
Or
How
I'm
can
gonna
we
lower
be
down
sure?
just to keep the time.
Well, the first sentence touches on Puerto Rican Americans and describes how they tend to communicate. But the first, second, and third sentences focus on code switching specifically. In fact, the last two sentences fail to mention Puerto Rican Americans altogether. That tells us that the passage will probably focus on the phenomenon of code switching rather than on Puerto Rican Americans specifically. Okay, second question. What is code switching?
Code switching is changing your accent. Or
If you said
changing-
switching between English and Spanish,
Yeah.
good job. If you said
That's what I
switching
meant.
between
two languages, not your accent. I meant to say switching between two languages, not your accent, because I'm the one that verbally said it's not about, your accent earlier. It's really about the languages. So
languages,
I have
even
to be
better.
specific.
The first sentence does point out that code switching involves switching between English and Spanish. But the second sentence mentions that this practice is common in bilingual
No.
populations.
I don't know. I feel like I'm
It
playing
didn't
with my
say
own
it's
time.
common
I'm gonna go
only
back
in
and answer this by
rap
myself.
usage. As a relatively simple question.
Ask me the question.
What is the subject of this paragraph?
Code switching?
If you said code switching or code switching among Puerto Rican Americans, give yourself a pat on the back.
I needed
If you
that.
just said Puerto Rican Americans or
I ain't
Puerto
say-
Rican Americans living in the mainland U.S., then you were a little bit off.
What?
You may have been misled by a common tendency among test takers to assume that people are always the subject of a reading
I don't
comprehension
think those
passage.
things. They not
As
always,
people, we have a
always
tendency or
in these
bias to
cases.
assume that fellow
Don't
people
assume
are
that.
the most important
The most
subjects of a
important.
passage.
People is
And the
not
test writers
the most
know
important.
this. When we get to the
Robots
main
is
point
even more
question,
important than us.
we'll see several options that make it seem like Puerto Rican Americans were the subject of the passage. So, realizing that this passage is more about code switching in Puerto Rican communities than the Puerto Rican communities themselves is an important first step in avoiding some trap answer choices. To be sure, people will be the subjects of many, many reading comp passages, but not this one. How can we be sure? Well, the first sentence touches on Puerto Rican Americans and describes how they tend to communicate. But the first, second, and third sentences focus on code switching specifically.
My problem is once I understand something, my brain gets tired and bored, and I try to go ahead and do something else. But I don't really fully understand. I only understand this part of it. But like when I get to a test or whatever question or whatever I'm doing, I think I understand it. I start like going other places. Like even if I don't understand it, I still go other places. So let me shut up.
In fact, the last two sentences fail to mention Puerto Rican Americans altogether. That tells us that the passage will probably focus on the phenomenon of code switching rather than on Puerto Rican Americans specifically. Okay, second question. What is code switching?
Changing between two languages. Well,
If you said switching between English and Spanish, good job. If you said switching between two languages, even better. The first sentence does point out that code switching involves switching between English and Spanish. But the second sentence mentions that this practice is common in bilingual populations. It didn't say it's common only in populations that speak Spanish and English. Since the paragraph mentioned Puerto Rican Americans specifically, the passage may focus on just English and Spanish. But we should also be prepared for the passage to bring up different communities that switch between different languages. If you had trouble explaining what code switching is, or if your answer brought up situational or rhetorical factors, you may have been focusing on the information that came after the introduction of the phrase code switching. Notice how the definition of code switching actually appears before they introduce the term. That's pretty common in reading passages. In fact, when answering those questions that ask us for meanings of statements in the passage, like meaning and context questions, we'll need to look at the information that comes both before and after the relevant line. All right, last question for this paragraph. Were there any pivot words in this paragraph? These are words like however, but, although, and nonetheless. Authors use these words whenever they want to pivot from talking about one idea to a different idea.
all right, so oh please Lord, don't make me overlook a pivot word. In many bilingual communities of Puerto Rican Americans, I was right. In many bilingual communities of Puerto Rican Americans living in the mainland United States, people use both English and Spanish in a single conversation, alternating between them smoothly and frequently even within the same sentence. This practice, called code switching, is common in bilingual populations. While there are some cases that cannot currently be explained, in the vast majority of cases, subtle factors, either situational or rhetorical, explain the use of code switching. I think wow is the pivot word. They're trying to say, like, sometimes they can't be explained in, like, situational or rhetorical. The why somebody will code switch. Let's see what he's saying.
Very often, these words can introduce the main point. Here, we have the word while in the third sentence. This word pivots the discussion in two different ways. On the surface level, the author pivots from the acknowledgement that some cases of code switching can't be explained to the belief that most instances of code switching can be explained. But let's think a little bit more deeply about the structure of this paragraph. The author uses the word while to pivot from describing facts about code switching to explaining code switching. The first part of the paragraph is really just setting the table with some background information. The second part, the part that comes after the word while, is where the author asserts their take on code switching. So, with that pivot in mind, we can see the third sentence, that most cases of code switching can be explained by situational or rhetorical factors as a possible main point in the passage. It's the statement the author expresses with the most conviction. And as we keep reading, we should consider whether the rest of the passage supports this idea. And with that, let's take a look at the second paragraph. This is a long one, so take your time as you read it.
Damn!
Please pause the video and resume when you're done reading this paragraph.
Alright. Dang, I can't move it over. That's fine. Linguists say, let me move this a little. Linguists, people that study language, say that most code switching among Puerto Rican Americans is sensitive to the social context, while researchers refer to, instead of while, the word was which. Rerun. Linguists say that most code switching among Puerto Rican Americans is sensitive to the social context, which researchers refer to as domains in which conversations take place. The main conversational factors influencing the occurrence of code switching. I don't need the glasses that if I'm reading something close up. Do not be brutal to my glasses, but that's for far. I don't need it. Extra layer of difficulties in the eyes. Let's see if this enhances anything. Linguists say that most code switching among Puerto Rican Americans is sensitive to the social context, which researchers refer to as domains in which conversations take place. The main conversational factors influencing the occurrence of code switching are setting, participants, and topic. When these go together naturally, they are said to be congruent. A set of 3 congruent factors constitutes a controversial situation. Linguists studying the choice between Spanish and English among a group of Puerto Rican American high school students classified their conversational situations into 5 domains: family, friendships, religion, education, and employment. To test the effects of these domains on code switching, researchers developed a list of hypothetical situations made up of 3 congruent factors. Can this go back into the hypothetical section? Can you have a hypothetical and meaning and context in the questions that they're going to ask? Who knows? But I'm just picking up on what they're putting down. To test the effects of these domains on code switching, researchers developed a list of hypothetical situations made up of 2 of the 3 congruent factors, or of 2 incongruent factors, approximating an interaction in 1 of the 5 domains. The researchers asked the students to determine the 3rd factor and to choose which mix of language on a continuum from all English to all Spanish they would use in that situation. When given 2 congruent factors, the students easily supplied the 3rd congruent factor and strongly agreed among themselves about which mix they would use. For instance, for the factors of the participants, parent and child, and the topic how to be a good son or daughter, the congruent setting chosen was home, and the language mix chosen was Spanish only. In contrast, incongruent factors such as participants, priest, and parishioner in the setting beach yielded less agreement on the 3rd factor of topic and language choice.
Okay, that paragraph was a lot. So my first question is a relatively straightforward one. Did this paragraph discuss the previously mentioned situational or rhetorical factors? And if so,
yes.
Which one?
It discussed where you
if
would
you
use
said
it at
yes,
home.
Situational factors, very good job.
Or
we can infer that
location.
This one is talking about situational factors pretty early on with the phrase social context.
Yeah, so it's like if you're talking Spanish at home and they started to disagree if they were talking
the
at
author
the
goes on to describe these types of
places.
social contexts, how the setting, participants, and topic can influence the language or languages used in a conversation. Those sound quite a bit like situational factors to me. We get quite a bit of jargon in this paragraph, but I'm not going to worry too much about all those details. Let's keep it big picture on this first reading. Most of this paragraph discusses a study of Puerto Rican American high school students. Could you explain this study to a 10-year-old? If so, try to. You don't have to find an actual 10-year-old, of course. But pause the video and try to vocalize an explanation you'd give to, let's say, a reasonably intelligent 10-year-old.
Alright, so I did this a little bit earlier in this question. Well, paragraph, when I was reading the paragraph. So, basically, this is a test that is testing the controversial fact to a 10-year-old. Okay, so basically, where would you speak English? Would you speak English at home with your parents, or would you speak it on the beach with the priest? Like, what would really affect you speaking English versus Spanish? So what makes you more comfortable wherever you at to speak Spanish? And what they're saying here is that through what we found, people are more comfortable to speak Spanish at home with their parents. And, you know, parent to child, if I'm a good kid or not, that type of conversation will be happening, whether if it's an argument or something happy, at home. So you're speaking Spanish in that context, in that way. And opposite of that, if it was the priest and, hey Siri, give me the definition of parishioner. Excuse me, priest and parishioner. So the preacher and you, the saint, or the sinner, or the saint, or whatever you is, a wretch, an old wretch. You and your pastor, and y'all was on the beach, would y'all speak in Spanish or English? And it comes to find out there was less agreement on the third topic and on language choice. So they was like, why would you choose really, like, they wouldn't agree that, you know, they was like, why would we agree to choosing something like this to put on the test? Because if it's a priest, why would you be at the beach with your priest, to be honest? One, like, that's a bad topic. And language choice, it depends on really the church that you're going to, if it's like an English church or a Spanish church. But one, why would y'all be on the beach? So they didn't really agree on that setting for this type of, that part of the study.
If you answered yes and gave a good summary without using too much jargon from the passage, that's great. If you answered with a definitive no, or your attempt to summarize the study was harder than anticipated, you may want to read the study again. I'm serious. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to. By the way, that question isn't random, or at least it's not completely random. One way to test whether you really understand something in reading comp or any other part of the LSAT is to ask whether you could explain it to a child. In other words, could you take these complex ideas that were presented in a confusing way and restate them in a simple way? If we were tasked with doing so, we might say that this study shows that people make choices on how they'll speak during a conversation. Specifically, people who speak more than one language must make choices about which language or languages they'll use in the conversation. Their choices are based on where they're having the conversation, who they're having the conversation with, and what the conversation is about. Exactly. This study shows that when two of those things go together naturally, the choice about how to speak is easy. Mm-hmm. So if you were having a conversation with your parents about being a good child, you could probably guess that you were at home and the choice of the language would be easy. Mm-hmm. This study also shows that if two of those things don't really make sense together, the choice about which language to use is hard. Yeah. If you were chilling with your priest at the beach, it would be hard to guess what conversation would be about or which language you might use. Mm-hmm. So I just described what that paragraph was about without using the jargon from the passage. Terms like conversational situation, domains, and congruent. If you could also do that, you'll have confirmed that you truly got the content in the paragraph. This is a helpful skill to develop, especially for paragraphs that really get into the weeds, as this paragraph did. All right, on to the final paragraph. Once again, I'll keep it on screen for 5 seconds and then ask some questions. So pause the video and return when you finish the paragraph.
I ain't gonna lie, chat. We 2 hours and 37 minutes in. Respectfully, when I'm done with this, okay? When I'm done with this 26-minute passage, because I have to take a potty break, and they be having potty breaks on the test, so I'll be back. But when I'm done with this, I'm gonna find myself the nearest shower. You understand that? I'm 11 of 27 minutes in. And this practice passage, that's for tomorrow. Questions 1 through 5, 6 through 8. I'm gonna just focus on the reading for today because that's enough to understand reading. And then we gotta get into questions tomorrow. No way. No way. No kind of way. I never seen something like this before. I've never seen something like this before. I've never seen something like this before. Sugar ants on my toothbrush. What kind of sugar do I got there? This is really starting to piss me off. I said I'm gonna make accommodations, but absolutely not. Miniature ants on my toothbrush. So that's how you do them. And let me not say that these individuals in these apartments. That's how those individuals be living. Just talking to you with ants in a mouth. That's very disgusting. I will show y'all the ants. I didn't take my phone with me. And I don't think y'all would have wanted to see that, me fighting with the ants on my toothbrush. I've been holding the phone in one hand, and then picking up my toothbrush and killing the ant on my toothbrush at the same time. That's a shame that I cannot leave my toothbrush in my bathroom because there's sugar ants. Talking about, oh, I know it's very different in New York. I don't be having ants everywhere, but we in the tropics, so there's that. I know it's very different from where you come from. No, shorty. No. Your place is just dirty. Got me itching. I probably got some sugar ants in my head as I speak. This is pissing me off. And the only thing I can think about is fixing my nail. Sugar ants on my toothbrush, and I'm supposed to be okay with that. No, this is an infestation. That's not normal. Like, don't have me ask ChatGPT because it will put y'all school out of business. This is pissing me off. Sugar ants on my toothbrush, that just don't make sense. No, that don't make sense. That don't seem right. Not one thing about it makes sense. Ow. No. And I know I'm supposed to be studying. Well, I had the 1 hour of no distraction. And when you're taking the actual test, you got 15 minutes. So I'm trying to fix my... Ooh, ow, ooh, I'm done. Just cut my hand. Almost did. Or did I? Ooh, yeah, I did. Oh, it's bleeding. I'm just so disappointed. Sugar ants. I said, okay, I'll stop closing my bathroom door because every time I close the bathroom door, black dots fall down. Black dots literally fall down all over my appliances that is in the bathroom counter. And it's absolutely disgusting and it makes me itch. So I stopped closing the door because I guess the door is too stiff to close without causing a ruckus, earthquake in the bathroom. Causing black dots to trickle down. So when the inspector came in, orientation is locked. I know it's locked. When the inspector came in and was like, yeah, I haven't seen much activity. The only place I've seen activity was at the bottom by your shoes. And I said, yeah, because that's where you're looking. But if I point to you at the places where there's activity, you're gonna really see some activity of some ants. But I have footage of where all these ants be everywhere. And I just don't think, like, that's normal. And don't try to convince me that it is. Because that shit is not. That shit is not normal. No, it's not. I will go into a shelter expeditiously if one more person tells me that's normal. Call the motherfucking, God forgive me, call the exterminator and get his behind over here to clear up these ants that is appearing on my toothbrush. What part is y'all not understanding? And y'all want me to give y'all monthly allowance for something like this? Perhaps not. Perhaps not. Perhaps they don't collect another rent payment and I evacuate. Perhaps that is the case. They got until Monday to find a response for all of these ants that's appearing. Because that was the calmest I was. Because I've seen the ants all over them toothbrushes before. And they probably on my body whenever I feel a little one too. on me. Because I be catching them. Just waiting and sitting. They be on me. And that's uncomfortable. And sometimes I turn this into a little therapy session. Because yes, I be talking to myself. Because God be right there listening. I be like, yo, how I'm supposed to be this rich as a rapper and I'm dealing with ants, infestations, trying to get my education, and I'm still supposed to be paying monthly for X, Y, and Z. I think that is absolutely outrageous, and this is not a battle that I'm willing to fight at this moment. It's not a loan package I'm willing to open. It's not. Especially if they tell me I must remain in here and nobody does nothing for me about this ant farm that I'm living in. Talking about this is different from New York. So it's just normal, no. Because when I was in Bethune, it was never an ant farm swarming me. Ever. I seen one big mama doodle roach. One. At Bethune. One. In my rooms at least. One. Coming through the wall that had a hole in it. How many holes is in this wall for ants to be swarming me? And lizards in here. There was no lizards in my room in Bethune. Another thing is that they's doing construction right there. So all them bugs and stuff is flocking over her. Because y'all digging up all that dirt. Like, there was a cockroach and some other kind of insect looking thing. They was like, oh yeah, those come from outside. Good thing. It's a good thing you only seen the big one, meaning there's not little more of them. Shorty, get me out of this. Get me out of here. And the places that I like that I didn't have bugs bothering me was Chicago. Oh, how I love you, Chicago. I would still go to law school in Chicago. I would pack up and go. I gotta find an apartment. I gotta get a good, stable job. Like, I just gotta lock in and do those things. It's so hard. Nobody really talk about that hard period that it is to find employment after you graduate. You do so much in school, and then like when you're done, it's like it don't even matter. You get the degree, it's like at first it feel like it don't even matter, but all those years and time you put in it do matter. But nothing that come easy really lasts long. And I know that's a fact. Okay? Yeah. You have to learn the hard way. And I think the LSAT allows me to see these realities about life that a lot of people, including myself, don't like to admit because of how logical you have to be. And the logic in me living in an ant farm and my comfortability just brushing my teeth with ants and then just supposed to talk to people like, hi. No, that's dirty. That's dirty. That's not that, no. And who's to say me living in a shelter is just like better than the ant farm I'm living in right now? But if God don't tell me to stay here, I ain't staying. And I'm just gonna keep listening to what he's saying. So I'm gonna lock in. It's about to be 12. I did a lot of talking. My 15-minute break is up. I'm blowing my nail when I'm done, or tomorrow or something. Just let it breathe, because I did cut that joint. So I already got some more nail beds. Let me get back to this. My iPad gonna be on 100 by the time I'm done. So I press pause at 2 hours and 37 minutes and 37 seconds. We gotta finish at 3:57. .11 minutes and 27 minutes I've been in here.
Paragraph.
Pause it and read the next paragraph back. But situational factors do not account for all code switching. It occurs even when the domain would lead one to not expect it. In these cases, one language tends to be the primary one, while the other one is used only sparingly to achieve certain rhetorical effects. Often the switches are so subtle that the speaker themselves are not aware of them. This was the case with the study of a family of Puerto Rican Americans in another community. Family members believed that they only used English at home, but their taped conversations occasionally contained some Spanish with no change in situational factors. When asked what the presence of Spanish signified, they commented that it was used to express certain attitudes such as intimacy or humor more emphatically. I get that, like, when I be trying to be like funny and somebody do something, and it's like, when somebody's trying to be funny and I guess I be trying to be funny back, I'll be like, nah, I'm mad when somebody do something dumb, like, I'm mad, you know that, I'm mad, yeah.
Did this paragraph discuss the previously mentioned situational or rhetorical factors? And if so, which one?
Yeah, they did. Well, situational rhetorical factors, yeah, they talked about it like intimacy or like outside with no changes in situational factors. Well, actually, they didn't give a situational factor. They just said that they were outside. So the situation was them outside of their home. And the rhetorical factors was mentioned. So I would say yes. And the rhetorical factors.
If you said yes, rhetorical factors, gold stars. The author says that language choices are sometimes made for their rhetorical effects. My second question is, once again, could you explain this study to a 10-year-old? Give the video a pause and try.
I just did that. Okay. So basically, Adrian's 12, but men are a little bit mature after women, so I'm gonna just say he's 10. Like, nah, not too much on him. Thank you. Clock Adrian's tea. I'm clocking my own tea. Just don't clock that man. Thank you. But shout out to my nephew, by the way. Basically, what they trying to say in this is that if you step outside of your house and you start speaking like another language without you knowing, that's you just changing it based on where you at. And that means, for example, like if you tell me you only speak Creole, because we speak Creole in English, which is similar. If you telling me you only speak Creole at home, but why you outside talking about some named? Why you outside talking about some get mama whenever something happened? And let me not say get mama to my nephew. Don't worry about that, Adrian. We're not going to use you. We're not going to use you. I'm just trying to explain it like for real. So basically it's trying to say like, yo, if you outside and you switch up your language, all of a sudden you start speaking another language without you even knowing, that's because you're so used to it. And you telling me you said named or get mama because you was trying to be funny, or je t'aime, like if we outside and you want to say I love you and you say je t'aime to me, like, and we just talking regular and you be like je t'aime. My mom be saying that to me, like je t'aime mon amour, I love you, je t'aime, like you my heart, like je t'aime, like you telling me you love me, like that's the form of intimacy. just because we outside is because you either use the emotion that you cared about me and you switch to the language to emphasize how you really feel about me. So that means like to really let me know on like a bigger scale, so I can feel it like you really do care about me. So that's when sometimes I switch my languages to let you know that I care about you, or I'm upset is when I switch my languages from English to Spanish or Creole or whatever the case may be. I just want to let you know how I felt. For real.
Be weighted. This study is much shorter and a bit less technical, so hopefully we felt better about summarizing. This study shows that sometimes people who speak more than one language will add a little expression from a different language if they want to express a feeling or emotion to other people. If we want to sound funny, or if we want to sound personal, we might use an expression from a different language. Also, we may not even notice that we're doing this until someone points it out to us. Now that we've finished reading the passage, let's reflect on the main point.
That's the one
We
part
said that we
I forgot to leave out. Like sometimes you don't even notice you're doing it until somebody pointed out.
thought the main point might be the last sentence of the first paragraph. Are you still confident that this is the author's main point? The idea that the author wants us to be convinced of after reading the passage? I'd say so. That sentence says that situational and rhetorical factors explain why people code switch. The next two paragraphs cite studies that help prove that point. We might use an expression from a different language.
My head just
Also, we may not even notice that we're doing this until someone points it out to us. Now that we've finished reading the passage, let's reflect on the main point. We said that we thought the main point might be the last sentence of the first paragraph. Are you still confident that this is the author's main point?
Yes.
The idea that the author wants us to be convinced of after reading the passage? I'd say so. That sentence says that situational and rhetorical factors explain why people code switch. The next two paragraphs cite studies that help prove that point. The second paragraph shows how situational factors explain code switching. Factors like setting, participants, and topic of the conversation can influence which language or languages get used. And the third paragraph shows how rhetorical factors explain code switching. Trying to express humor or intimacy can affect which language one uses.
the legs of the
In
table.
explaining how situational and rhetorical factors influence code switching, the second and third paragraphs convince us that the last sentence in the first paragraph is true. In other words, they support that statement, confirming that the last sentence in the first paragraph is indeed the main point. So, we have our main point. Subtle situational or rhetorical factors explain most instances of code switching. During this reading, we typically identify the passage's metastructure. We haven't learned about the metastructures yet, so we won't spend time doing that here. But this passage is a prime example of a phenomenon explanation passage. We learn of a practice, another word for phenomenon, called code switching. That phenomenon then gets explained in the rest of the passage. We'll learn more about this metastructure in the descriptive passages module. All right, so let's go through this passage again. This time, we're focusing on structure and representing that structure on our scratch paper notes. Once again, let's start with paragraph 1. I'll put this on the screen for 5 seconds. Pause the video, and then we'll talk through notes on each paragraph.
So what you want me to do? I'm over here itching.
That phenomenon then gets explained in the rest of the passage. We'll learn more about this metastructure in the descriptive passages module. All right, so let's go through this passage again. This time, we're focusing on structure and representing that structure on our scratch paper notes. Once again, let's start with paragraph 1. I'll put this on the screen for 5 seconds. Pause the video, and then we'll talk through notes on each paragraph.
Come on.
Okay, let's talk through the note we could make for this note. We'll help you out on this note. Let's start by focusing on the structure. We think there are 2 roles this paragraph plays. By that, we mean we believe this paragraph relates to the author's main point in 2 ways. Let's write down paragraph 1, or P1, and list these roles. First, we think the paragraph gives us background information on this passage's central subject matter or phenomenon. So we'll just write phenomenon introduced. Second, and this one should be a layup for us, we have the author's main point. So we'll write author's main point. With those 5 simple words, we have the structural role of this paragraph. Next, let's summarize the content of each. In parentheses next to phenomenon introduced and author's main point, try summarizing each in 10 words or fewer. So try writing down something for phenomenon introduced. What was that phenomenon?
Code switching. Code switching being common. Code switching being common, and the main point is being common because it can happen as a form of code switching being common because it can happen as a form of everyday conversation and interaction. It can show up. That's what I'm gonna do. It can present itself, but I'm gonna make it simple. It can show up in everyday conversational interactions. 10 words or less. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, code switching is one thing. I'm gonna just say in everyday conversations. Code switching is common. The phenomenon is introduced and it's the author's main point of the first paragraph. Code switching is common because it can show up in everyday interaction, in everyday conversation.
Maybe you just wrote code switching. Or maybe you got a little more specific with code switching in Puerto Rican American communities. If you don't think you'll remember what code switching refers to, please add that to your note. Code switching, quickly alternating between two languages. Here, we'll go with the simple code switching. Now, try summarizing what the main point is. Again, in 10 words or fewer. What is the main point? I imagine most of us went with
It can happen
explained by
suddenly.
situational or rhetorical factors, or some variation of that. All right?
Yeah, no. I'm gonna fix that. I'm just gonna put code switching like them. And I mean, that is situational every day. But then I wrote it like I was explaining it to a 10-year-old. So that's why I said it could show up in everyday conversation. So let me expand this a little bit. And I'm going to make this much smaller because I don't need to take up the whole entire page. So P1, phenomenon, parentheses, code switching. P2, author's main point. Rhetorics and situational. Explained. I'm just going to put rhetorics and situational because that's literally what I said. Situational, rhetorical.
On to the second paragraph. Pause the video, give it another read, and then resume the video when you're done.
Okay, that was still P1. This is not P2. Second paragraph, I'm gonna have to put P2 down here. Read it. Linguists say that most code switching among Puerto Rican Americans is sensitive to the social context, which researchers refer to as domains in which conversations take place. The main conversational factors influencing the occurrence of code switching are setting, participants, and topic. When these go together naturally, they are said to be congruent. A set of 3 such congruent factors constitutes a conversational situation. Linguists studying the choice between Spanish and English among a group of Puerto Rican American high school students classify their conversational situations into 5 domains: family, friendship, religion, education, and employment. To test the effects of these domains on code switching, researchers developed a list of hypothetical situations made up of 2 of the 3 congruent factors, or of the 2 incongruent factors, approximately an interaction in one of the 5 domains. The researcher asked the students to determine the 3rd factor and to choose which mix of language on a continuum from all English to all Spanish they would use in that situation. When given 2 congruent factors, the students easily supplied the 3rd congruent factor and strongly agreed among themselves about which mix they would use. For instance, for the factors of participants, parents, and child, the topic had to be a good son or daughter. The congruent setting chosen was home, and the language mix chosen was Spanish only. In contrast, incongruent factors such as the participants, priest and parishioner, such as the beach. Let me go back. One of the 5 domains. The researchers asked the students to determine the 3rd factor and to choose which mix of language on a continuum from all English to all Spanish they would use in that situation. When given 2 congruent factors, the students easily supplied the 3rd congruent factor and strongly agreed among themselves which mix they would use. For instance, the factors of participants, parent and child, and the topic had to be a good son or daughter. The congruent setting chosen was home, and the language mix chosen was Spanish only. In contrast, incongruent factors such as the participants, priest and parishioner, such as the beach, yielded less agreement on the 3rd factor of topic and on language choice.
Now that you're back, let's think about the structure of this paragraph. On your scratch paper, write down a word or 2 that describes this paragraph's structural relationship to the main point.
So
I'll
it's
give
the
you a second to do
explanation
so.
of the phenomenon, like you said.
For this paragraph, we went with simply author's support.
Okay.
This paragraph provides evidence of the main point's assertion that situational factors can influence code switching. If you wrote evidence or premise, or even something a little more specific like explanation, that's great.
Okay.
If you went with something too specific, something like situational factors, or study on situational factors, there may be a chance you're too focused on the content of the paragraph, not the structure of the passage. When we talk about the structure of the passage, we're really not talking about the subject matter in the passage.
So what is
We're
the other
talking
one
about the
that was
abstract
allowed?
relation. If you wrote evidence or premise, or even something a little more specific like explanation, that's great. If you went with something too specific, something like situational factors, or study on situational factors, there may be a chance you're too focused on the content of the paragraph, not the structure of the passage. When we talk about the structure of the passage, we're really not talking about the subject matter in the passage. We're talking about the abstract relationship the paragraphs have with each other. When making our note on the paragraph's role, we shouldn't include much on what the paragraph is about. We're thinking more about what the paragraph does. Of course, we also want to
make the role note, think about what the paragraph does, not what the paragraph says. I'll put that. What is a role note? Let me go back.
focused on the content of the paragraph, not the structure of the passage. When we talk about the structure of the passage, we're really not talking about the subject matter in the passage. We're talking about the abstract relationship the paragraphs have with each other. When making our note on the paragraph's role, we shouldn't include much on what the paragraph is about. We're thinking more about what the paragraph does. Of course, we also want to incorporate the subject of the paragraph into our notes. That said, situational factors or study could work for the summary note, although they'd both be a little underdeveloped. Let's see if you can write a better summary. Once again, write out a summary of the second paragraph in parentheses, using your own words. I'll give you a moment to try to do that.
Okay, so I would say basically, depending upon where you at, the language you use will be different. Location chooses language.
What'd you go with as your summary?
Situations choose
We'll admit,
language.
we found it a little difficult to summarize this lengthy paragraph. We ultimately went with this. High school study shows situational factors, setting, topic, participants, influence code switching.
Okay, it's like a big, it didn't have to be that, I guess, narrowed down. So I'll put that so I can know for the future. High school study, because I did leave that out. I didn't know how much detail to put, but then he literally just said summarize the paragraph. So I forgot that part. High school study shows, and he didn't say in 10 words either. Well, this is still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, basically 10. High school study shows situational. No, let me give this some space. Factors, setting, topics, participants, show setting, topics, participants, influence, code switching.
We'd prefer this to be a little shorter, but with the hyphens, we at least got it under the 10-word limit we set for ourselves. But this level of detail might help us out. For instance, if a question asked us about high school, conversational settings, or topics of a conversation, our note would let us know the answer is probably in the second paragraph. We could direct our attention there to anticipate what the correct answer will say. So, compare your summary note to ours. If it's around that length or shorter and covers a similar subject matter, it can also be quite helpful. We'll also remind you that it's totally acceptable to abbreviate, possibly encouraged. If the following version of our note makes sense to you, you can write your note in that shorthand. And finally, let's reflect on the last paragraph. Pause the video and give it a second reading. This time, try to write your note, both the roll note and the summary note, before you unpause the video. We'll chat about the note when you get back.
My neck, right? I'm all like, I'm such a lefty. Like, I really be like in it. Situational factors do not account for all code switching. It occurs even when